Welcome to the Church of Thomas, Responding to Fear, 122:10. Now, everybody has had situations where a fearful thing has happened. It's how you respond to the fear that often determines whether you successfully ride through it or are torn apart by it. Fear is normal. It was what kept us alive when saber-toothed tigers decided that we would make a really good box lunch. There are ways of responding to fear. First, you can run, or you can freeze. Jesus asked Peter during the storm to walk out onto the water with him. Now, Peter was very faithful. He had been a good student and he trusted Jesus. And he did okay until he decided to use his own senses to decide whether there was a problem or not. So he walked out 4 or 5 steps. Then he looked down and went, "Oh, I can't possibly be doing this," and sank. Jesus saved him, of course, but it was one of those situations where the response to being fearful took away his ability to be faithful. There are pros and cons of freezing. If something is triggering your fear that if you run will be more excited because you ran, like a dog or a wolf or a cougar or something like that, then becoming an inanimate object is a good option. Of course, if it doesn't care whether you're running or not, then the con of that would be it'll eat you anyway. Now, the running away has problems because there are many predators that are triggered by a flight response. If somebody who is a playmate, there have been children that have been bit by family pets because the child, pokes and prods the dog and then runs away. Well, the dog at first thinks play, and then the chase instinct kicks in. But at the end of a chase is a bite. So the pros of running away are you might get away. The cons are you could make the situation worse. If during good times you're always thinking about the what ifs, the bad stuff, the possibilities of what could go wrong, you're living in fear. And in that particular case, it'll probably paralyze you, freeze you in place, make you inactive. You won't do the good things that you had planned on doing. On the other hand, if you're doing something that is worthwhile and you start feeling overwhelmed, instead of reaching for God, you decide it's time to run away. Then you have the other problem where you don't ever finish the good stuff because you leave it. Here is a very good verse about fear and faith. It's Daniel 6:22. Now, the background on this are that the kings of the era had enslaved the Jews. Daniel had become a soothsayer, advisor, dream interpreter. And in one of the first situations where the king called upon his opinion, he gave a very in-depth and insightful interpretation of the king's dream. The only problem is that by doing that, he set himself up to, let's just say, be in bad odor with the people who were used to doing this sort of work, who had the favor of the king until Daniel started interpreting things properly. And so they plotted against him. Now, Daniel was always very faithful to God and did not bow to any idols. Well, the problem was that the advisors told the king that it was time that he became a god and, let's do this great idol and anyone who did not kneel to this idol should be put to death. Well, see, there's a problem with that, because that was a setup directed right at the Jews, who aren't supposed to kneel before other idols. God is the only thing you should be worshiping. So they noticed that Daniel was praying and not kneeling before this idol, and they told the king. They said, hey, he may be your favorite, but he's not obeying the rules, and you already said that you would put to death anyone who didn't follow these rules. Well, as a result, Daniel was thrown into a pit with lions. And this is the verse that was the response. This is Daniel 6:22. My God sent his angels, and he shut the mouths of the lions. They have not hurt me, because I was found innocent in his sight. Daniel made it through the fearful situation because he knew he was there because of righteousness. He knew he was being punished for something that he shouldn't be punished for. And the king actually didn't want to punish him. It was the advisors who egged him on and said, hey, you can't back out now. You know, your word is law, and you just said, so the law is. And the king didn't stand up for Daniel. Well, the king was very pleased that Daniel had survived it, and after that allowed Daniel to continue practicing his religion with the God with no name. So Daniel's way of dealing with fear was probably to be very still and let God do all the work. In a modern setting, being still would not have caused the lions to become excited. So on a animal behavior viewpoint, his controlling his fear and letting God take care of it probably did the one thing that in an animal behavior situation would have kept him from being injured. So don't let fear rule you. Put it into somebody else's hands, somebody who can take care of the problems, and deal with the problems you have with faith and courage, and you will do good things. God bless the whole world, no exceptions. Angel Alive.